I am so thrilled to see so many of you here, and I'm so thrilled to see so many educators in the room. And all of us are advocates for children. This is historic. We have been given an opportunity through the LCFF to have the flexibility to make sure that we meet the needs of the kids. We have also been given the responsibility to create an accountability system that works for all kids, but particularly our most fragile, our kids who are EL learners, our kids who live in poverty, our foster youth, the kids that need us most. We have an opportunity to show what we can do. I ask you, regardless of what your opinions are, to look at this in a new way. We need to do better. We need to serve our kids well. We have an opportunity. We have a moral imperative to make sure that all our kids, not just in Kern County, not just in Fresno, but in the entire state, perform at levels that we've never expected before. This is a huge responsibility. This is a responsibility that you need to take locally. We know what our kids need. Accountability without passion is not successful. We all have to let go of what we've done in the past. We've had a moderate level of success. That's not good enough. We have to let go of what we think our own personal biases are. We have to open up our hearts and our minds to the fact that good enough is not good enough. We have to be there for the kids of this state. We have to be there for the kids in Kern County. We have to get out of the way. We need local control. We need our teachers. We need our families. We need our community. We need our school boards. We need our administrators to help us get there. So thank you for being here today. Your voice is important. I think that this is an opportunity that we have to embrace. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Karen Staff Walters.
Thank you, Chris. That was a fabulous introduction of why we're all here today. I'm Karen Staff Walters. I'm the Executive Director for the State Board of Education. Here with me this morning is one of our own State Board members, Aida Molina, who's from this area. So thank you, Aida, for taking time today to we are not only here in Bakersfield today, but we also have a satellite location in Fresno, at the Fresno County Office of Education. We want to thank Larry Powell, the county superintendent there, and his staff for facilitating this today. And Chris, you and your staff have been extraordinarily accommodating. Thank you as well. I know it's a lot when we ask to invade your space, so thank you for that. Thank you all for taking time out. I know it's a busy time of year. If your educators, school about to start, if your parents, it's always busy. So thank you for taking time to come and give us input. Chris framed the reason we're here today really, really well. This is a really big change. We know change is hard. Change comes with imperfections, but what we want to do is get as much input from all of you, from the public, on how to best go about implementing this. This is a process. Decisions aren't made today or tonight. Over the next several months, the next 6 months, we're going to try to figure this out so that all of you have some guidance moving forward. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot, and it's like anything, you put things in place, and then we'll have to probably go back and make some changes too, and that's all okay. But at least we want to try to do the best we can on the outset of this. You all know we have regularly scheduled state board meetings every other month. Our next one's in September. Those are always public. They're 2-day meetings. You are all welcome to come and give input as well during those. We anticipate we're going to be doing a webinar series probably in September. We have other opportunities for public input as well, so we want to make sure you're aware of that. Janelle Kupinek from West Ed, who is here somewhere, I think. Janelle, oh, sorry, Janelle. She is the leader of this project, the state board. We've contracted with West Ed, and particularly Janelle and her team, to help us facilitate this work going forward. So Janelle will also share with you other ways that you can give input through email. We have a lot of things posted on the Department of Education's website, and we will continue to populate that with more. We know yesterday, using the high-speed internet network, we had some glitches with all of you that tried to get on. We apologize for that. We had way more folks interested than we ever imagined, so that was part of our problem. We've learned that lesson too. We'll make sure that doesn't happen. But yesterday's session, which was in Sacramento, will be posted on the CD website, so you can watch it from beginning to end there as well. It should be up the next day or so. So that will be accessible even if you couldn't participate yesterday. So we know many of you have signed up. If you haven't signed up to speak, please go. Jamie Callahan. Jamie, I should introduce you. Jamie is from the governor's office and has been essential in helping making all this work well. She has the sign-in sheets. If you haven't signed up, please do so to give public comment. If you have lots more to say beyond your 2 minutes, we can accept all of that because we're going to do transcripts of all these meetings as well. So that can be part of the public record for the transcripts too. So with that, I will introduce Janelle.
So it's my job today, you can judge at the end how well this is done, to help facilitate the session. So I think as facilitator, my job is to say as little as possible and allow for public comment to the maximum extent possible. So, but I'd like to start with giving you a little background about local control funding formula, in that I'm assuming that some of you have read the entire 200 pages of legislation. Many of you have thought about it, and some of you have had asked other people to do it for you. So I'm here, what I'm going to start with is just a brief overview to make sure that we all have a basic working understanding of local control funding formula. And then I'm going to open it up for the public comment portion, and we still have the sign-up sheets at the back if you'd like to add comments there. But I'd like to start with really building on the comments that Chris opened with, which is this is not small change, this is not marginal change, this is not sort of change. This is big change. And if you look at the history of California's funding system, it's been an awful long time since we've done anything quite like this. In fact, we'd have to go back about 40 years to see a real shift in the way we funded schools. And this is, that's even kind of comparable to what we've just done here in California. With that said, I'd say, I put this in another context because it's national. And if you look at the way our system works under local control funding formula, it's much more comparable to how many states treat their funding distribution formulas to school districts. With that said, we're not like all states, and we haven't been doing this for years, so it's going to take us some time, as Karen said, to get to the point where this is really working well for our districts. And that's why we're here today. That's why we're here to hear from you around what does it mean to implement local control funding formula well, knowing that the emphasis here is on local. And that means local implementation, local voice in the process, and a local understanding of how this works. So, just to give you the highlights, we're moving from a system that's been revenue limit based, meaning we have a dollar amount per pupil. It's varied by districts, largely based on size and type, so high school districts being different than unified than elementary. Large districts different than small districts. And we've augmented that or complemented those funds with categoricals. And we have reached a point in our state, when you look at our peak in 2006-07, where we had over 60 state categorical programs in existence. So while we've had some time to get used to having fewer of them, that really was the transition period that we just went in with flexibility in our funding. So, but the big parts here were revenue limits plus some categoricals. Now what we have is local control funding formula that has a base amount, which is then added to with some very simple adjustments that are largely based on demographics of districts, including and charters. And so those demographics really drive the complementary funding, or the amount, some of the funding that goes into the formula. In addition, we've had a period in this recession where we continued to say we were funding K-3 class size reduction. We didn't necessarily hold the targets the way we had them. And so we've seen class sizes creep up, and what local control funding formula brings back is some type of target for lower class sizes in our K-3 grade levels. And so that will slowly be implemented over time as part of local control funding formula. I think the biggest part of local control funding formula is it really doesn't have to do with the funding itself. It has to do with how we think about funding and how we use it to the benefit of students. And this is the part where, while I said earlier, California is now funding schools and districts in a way that's more comparable to what we see nationally, and that is by having some base amount and some weights that go with it. Where we have been unique in this regard is we've actually asked for not just spending plans according to what the new monies are, but some type of accountability plan. And this is that emphasis on performance. And so we are moving from a system where we have had accountability and performance processes, and you can look at, we've had financial reporting, we've had even reviews within that through our fiscal crisis management assistance team standards and other methods and metrics. We've had our state accountability system through the Academic Performance Index, and you could argue the federal pieces associated with that. But they've really been separate, right? We fund and then we perform, and we don't look at funding and performance as connected. And so what we're moving towards in local controls, how do we connect those things? How do we look at funding not just as being an input to education, but as a necessary condition of the outcome we expect? And so there are structures within the local control funding formula to bring those pieces together and ask the question of local districts, what do you plan for, what do you care about, and how is it evidenced in results according to the identified state priority areas, which, if you look at, it's really the things that we're performing to in most of our LEAs as it is. So that's big change. This is like major stuff, major different things, lots to digest and think about, because this isn't just add a new program and think about how to operate it. This is add a new way and evaluate how to behave. Now, with that said, while many things are different, there are some things that are the same. First off, while this has to do with funding, right, we are not introducing creative finance mechanisms. We're not, getting rid of any of the financial auditing and accounting requirements. Those still exist. So the basic accounting of resources, the way we manage them, the expectation is that we are still operating with those in mind. So for those of you that have memorized, the OMB circulars and the California State Accounting Manual, don't worry, that knowledge is still entirely relevant. Okay, the other piece is compliance with Williams. Okay, so for those of you familiar with Williams, that attends to, we need to have safe and clean facilities that are appropriate for educating our students. We need to have sufficient materials. We declare our teachers and their assignments in hopes that we are aligning assignments with the qualifications of teachers. And we also have a process for complaints that is reviewed and monitored through the Williams settlement. All of those compliance activities that have been monitored by county offices with regards to Williams remain in place. So LCFF has some things that we're looking at. Well, those facilities pieces and those materials pieces and assignments, etc., all continue under Williams outside of LCFF. Other piece that's outside of LCFF is school accountability report cards. We are still expecting that the school accountability report cards will be produced by managed by our districts on behalf of their schools and posted and available to the public. That's an important part that continues unchanged. Another major part is federal funding, planning, and accountability requirements. LCFF is a state change to funding, does not affect federal requirements. And I would include in that special education. I'd include in that our title programs and their affiliated requirements. And that would be Title I and local education agency plans, Title III, and if a district is not performing where it's needed to be, there's corrective action plans that have been associated with that. Those all remain, and those have been very specific to how do you use federal resources to respond to federal accountability requirements for students that also appear in our demographics for LCFF. So the portion that we would look at LCFF is what do we do with state resources for those populations, but that which we have done previously as we've met federal requirements remains the same. And in the case of special education, we continue to see our formula in place, which is AB 602, the state money, that also includes the federal funds through IDEA. So special education, we are called upon in LCFF to attend to the needs of students, including students with disabilities, but the requirements that are associated with the federal law are not affected by LCFF. The last part that has remained unchanged, and I think this is significant to call out, is LCFF treats districts and charters as the LEA, and they are the LEA as the sub-grantee. So what this is districts have prior to LCFF and continue to have now with LCFF the flexibility and opportunity to manage how they're going to allocate funds to sites, and that could include site-based budgeting. It could include a combination of centralized activities with some site discretion. And that continues to be a point at which districts have a decision to make, because districts, the LEAs and the charters, direct funded charters, continue to be the subgrantee of the state under LCFF, just as we have had in our revenue limits and our categorical structure. So this is just, in a nutshell, that which has changed. So big stuff at the top, that which is the same. I'd say these are still major things that are unchanged. A lot of it is structural. But that's what we're looking at in the law. Now, let me illustrate the formula. One of the big pieces of LCFF is this should be much more simpler. Some people have argued that California's formula is arcane, irrational, you can pick the word. And what we're moving towards is something that, how do you explain how we fund education? And so this is a graphic that's taken from the Legislative Analyst's Office recent overview of local control funding formula. It does provide a fairly comprehensive review of the law and the processes associated with it. I think it does a particularly good job of showing how simple this is. First off, we have stick figures. It's something anyone can draw. And so here's the basics of the formula, okay? And I will say this is true of everyone in this room that may encounter a student that's in kindergarten to third grade. This is how it works for everyone. Okay, now notice what I said earlier about revenue limits. We had different amounts for different districts. We had different categoricals going in. One of the key changes under LCFF is it works the same wherever you are. So here's how it works. In this depiction here, there's 22 students. Some of them are blue in color, some of them are darker blue, and some of them are red, and let me explain who they are. For all these students, all 22 of them, and again, we're presuming they're somewhere in the K-3 grade span, so for sake of simplicity, let's just say they're third graders. All of them generate what we consider to be the base amount. So you can see listed here a base amount, $6,845. Regardless of where you are in California, your students that are in the third grade under LCFF formula generate $6,845. That's the base. We have a few, and I emphasize few, adjustments that are made to the LCFF base, and adjustments being additions. There are no subtractions from the base. Okay, so these are just additions. One of the adjustments for our K-3 students is a K-3 adjustment because of our linkage between LCFF and the expectation that we're reducing class sizes in K-3. So this is based on a percent of the base. So that percent of the base is what generates the K-3 adjustment. So as the base increases, the adjustment increases. So that adjustment, because again, we're dealing with all third graders, all 22 students, generate that. At our 9 to 12, we have a college and career readiness adjustment, and that gets added for that population, similarly to what we're seeing here. Those are the adjustments we have, plus one more. The adjustment that is probably the hardest to understand, but I think it's quite understandable if we walk through it slowly, is what we consider our unduplicated pupils. Unduplicated pupils being students that are English learners, low income foster youth. Okay, what the LAO did in their document is they truncated that to be ELLI. Okay, so ELLI supplement. And the way this works is all students in an unduplicated way that fall into being an ELLI foster youth generate 20% of the base amount. Okay, so what you see here, and this is where on this slide we have the light blue and the dark blue. Each of those students are generating 20% of the base, and if I had more students, they would generate more. Okay, so each of them are generating 1,511, and this is statewide, the same number. Now, in those cases where I might be in an LEA and 55% or more of my students are in one of these unduplicated categories, what also happens is the generation of a concentration amount or concentration supplement. The concentration supplement is for every student above 55%, they will generate 50% of the base amount. So you can see for those students above 50%, it's 3,779. In this particular example, I have two out of the 14 students that fit that category, and they generate that amount. So you can see over here the total is total per student. So all my students in 3rd grade generated 7,557 by the formula. Then those students that are in the first 55%, 9,068. The students that were in that I would say are part of the concentration population, 12,847. The total funding of this particular district example, or classroom example in this particular case, would be multiply the number of kids by that number, and we get the aggregated amount. So the weighted average of this is really the reflection of what's the per pupil amount for this particular population. Okay? So this is almost every single adjustment that exists within LCFF, with the exception of the college and career readiness. So a major intent of LCFF is simplicity. If I were here before and trying to explain to you revenue limits and the add-ons and the forms, I can do that for 3 hours and you still might not understand it. So this is the intent of how do we generate. Now, there is an important asterisk on this slide that was added from what the LAO had published, and that is these numbers at the end, the totals listed, are not what is funded as of yet. This is what would be funded were we fully funding LCFF, but this is going to take some years to increase state revenues to the point where we can increase funding to education, and so these represent the targets. If we are fully funding LCFF, this is what funding would look like today. So what we have is 2013-14 is really the beginning. It's the beginning of implementation. It's largely as we figure out how this works, how our districts and charter schools are modifying their programs and their work. And I would also add to this county offices. I know we have several county offices represented here today. County offices are going to be funded under a similar structure with local control. They have a base and you add to it, and not too dissimilar of a way. But this is really, we're figuring out what local control is going to look like. We understand the calculations, we understand the basic rules, but how do we truly implement this so that it's not a change that we make, but it's a change that we make and makes us better. And that's where regulations and templates come in. That there is in the legislation requirement that the State Board of Education adopt regulations and templates and make those available to LEAs in time for the 2014-15 planning and budget cycle, meaning regulations in place by late January, templates in place by March. So the intention is we are putting all of those pieces in place for that planning cycle, and that's why it's so important to hear input now. And to inform what becomes in that process. And again, this is not a quick change. This is going to be something we move into, and the expectation is by 2020, 2021, we'll be at full implementation with the intervening years increasing funding and also beginning to put in place some of the targets and the reporting accountability measures that are associated with LCFF. So the work of the board, and why, again, we're here today, is to inform what needs to be developed and adopted by the board. When I say developed, the board is going to, only the board will adopt these, but the development truly is based on a broad spectrum of input. And this is part of that process. We realize that, we've had to pick 6 locations in the state in order to do these regional input sessions, and we're really fortunate to have the support of the high-speed network to connect sites, and that's helped. But we know that we can't hear from everyone all at once. So one of the things that we are doing through this input process is that we have word-for-word transcripts of everything that's happened, and we are summarizing so that we can post summaries that people might want to further comment about, so that we're really iterating through the comments, and we'll be coming out, as Karen said earlier, with more information. And we've already heard some great ideas and some ways that we can be helpful to the field in the current year, as well as thinking ahead to 2014, 15, and beyond. So while we're providing today as an opportunity to hear your input, it really is feeding into a conversation that's happening, or we hope to facilitate through the use of technology, through the use of future sessions, and it's going to get us to this point where we have regulations that are in place that people understand, hopefully, that they can see their ideas present in, and that they can identify how it's going to help them achieve the LCFF goal of supporting public transparency, supporting performance in their LEA operations, and having those to guide the use of funding. Then templates, not so far behind, and this gets to the local control accountability plan as well as the budget forms that need to be part of that, and having those in place and available for districts no later than March 31st. And then this is followed by rubrics. So, part of this is we'll have plans in place, but then how do we start to really evaluate those, and not just to evaluate them to check them that they're done, but to evaluate them in terms of being some indicator of what assistance and can be provided to really support improvement, to support performance. And those are due by October 1st, 2015. But, the way that we see this is these are all related. You can't just treat these as separate independent parts. They do need to come together. So that which we look at in terms of regulations and templates really does need to be thoughtfully constructed to inform rubrics. And so these should be an integrated whole as we deal with the parts. So that in a nutshell is LCFF. And I'd really encourage folks, the Department of Education has recently created a page on its website that is where all LCFF materials are being posted. This slide presentation is available on that website, in addition to recent correspondence from the field, frequently asked questions that are being generated and responded to. One of the reasons we asked you to take comment cards is if you have questions, it's a great way to put your question down, and we will be looking at those and working with the Department of Education as to how do we post responses to those questions. But at the Department of Education's website, which is www.cde.ca.gov, if you go right to the homepage, in the center you will see a link that says Local Control Funding Formula. When you click there, it'll direct you to the page with information, and we will be posting that information in addition to the summary of this session in combination with the other sessions that we've had over the last few days. And we will be inviting further comment when people have the opportunity to review the summaries. So that is what I wanted to share, just sort of setting the stage. I'd now like to turn it to you to provide public comment. And the way this is going to work is that we have folks that are joining us via video connection in Fresno. So we're going to start with comments from this room. We're going to turn it over to Fresno and hear their comments. And we have 3 topics that we've organized comments around. These topics have rotated in order of which goes first and which goes last. So today, our first topic is going to be local control accountability plans, followed by transparency and community involvement, and then, actually it's local control accountability plans, followed by, I think, budgeting, funding, use, no.
Budget funding's first.
You were right. I was right first? Okay. Local control accountability plans, followed by transparency, community involvement, and then budget and funding use. Okay, that order. I had to come up with the right permutation. We've done this almost 3 days in a row, so there's only one left. So we're going to take comments, and here's the other thing I will remind you. We had comment cards in the back, and we still have comment cards, so if you decide that in the course of this session you'd like to write something down, we invite you to please write something on the comment cards and leave that with us. We will take those and put those in the record. We are keeping a record of all comments, so written comments, things that are said, and we have a database that we're keeping with all comments, identifying what are issues, what are solutions, and mapping them and trying to combine and put those all together. So we also are accepting comments a third way, which is through an email address. So you're welcome to email, and it's lcff@wested.org, and any comments received before the end of today will also go into the record and summary of the public comments shared as part of the regional input sessions. So there are at least 3 ways that you can comment. One is to join us here at the microphone, and we have those of you that signed up, and I'll be calling you. The second is to use the comment cards, and the third is to email in further comments.
We don't accept written comments here.
And you're welcome to give us written comments.
Why didn't you accept them in LA?
We did.
We did.
No, you
They
did
turned them
not.
away.
They would not take them.
That's why I had to ask.
Okay.
Failing you.
Thank you for the comment. So, what I'd like to do now is turn it to you. And so, as I said earlier, our first commentary is local control accountability plans. And what I'd ask you to do is our mic is over here for those comments, and if you could come to this far side of the room, and I'm going to call several names at a time so you know who will be called to comment. And we have a 2-minute limit for comments. And I have...
Where's your clock?
We don't have a clock, but we will give you a verbal, and Jamie right there, who's going to be standing in front of the mic, will give you a 20-second warning on that.
Did they make a thing up so that they can show it to you so it's easy?
I'll say 20 seconds when you have 20 seconds left.
Okay,
Usually it flips
so
over.
our first commenter is George Bazzetti, followed by Kevin Silberg and Ron Bryant.
George Bazzetti, Director of Policy for the Congress for Racial Equality of California. We're probably the only civil rights group in the United States not owned by somebody. We finance ourselves, so we work issues, nobody pays us. I've been working over 22 years in school fraud, bust them all over the United States. When I've submitted my information to the state, they've gone crazy because they had to look at facts. I use their website and district superintendent budgets to bust people. This process right here is illegal, according to the Office of Administrative Hearings. There's no proper notification. How can an organization like Learning Disabilities Association, which is a national, well-known, very old organization, only find out about this on the 26th of July, because one of their members found out from someone else on the sly? Something wrong here. This is typical of what goes on, okay? They're breaking the Bagley-Keene Act also. We're supposed to be able to participate in this. They refused my comments because I had a family thing in writing at Waco. They could not make this meeting work yesterday. This tells me amateurs, and it's on purpose. Their numbers that she just presented do not match what's in superintendent's budgets or on the CD website. I'll challenge anybody to play that game with me. We're supposed to be dealing here. This might be the most important thing in education in the United States right now. This is a state that has more students,
20 seconds.
more money than anyone else, and we're making this change with no input. If they make any change, what they already have to make changes, they have to go through this 45-day comment period over and over again, according to the Bagley-Keene Act. Everybody
Time.
in this state is in denial of transparency and the law. And this is a perfect example of such. Oh, and who do I give my written comments to?
Take this. Thank you very much.
Since you wouldn't take them the last time.
Kevin.
Good morning. In 2 days, I'll be standing in front of 1,800 staff members who will be working with our 17,000 students in the Panama Buena Vista Union School District. My message to them is the same to you today. Our California educational system is changing before our eyes. Common Core standards, digital adaptive assessments, and moving from revenue formulas to local control funding. At Panama, we're evaluating what this new funding model will mean to our students. Our district is having what I'm calling garage sale discussions, asking ourselves what is not for sale, what needs to be sent to the museum, and what could never be sold, and yes, what has served us well and what needs to go in the garbage can. So that is my testimony to you today. As you set policy, especially in the area of the LCFF accountability and the role of the California Collaborative, think garage sale. Ask yourself what needs to be kept, what has served us well but needs to go away, and what needs to be sold and replaced with a newer version. This is a new day and we can revise and create new effective systems. My recommendation, keep with the garage sale idea, throw out the compliance and reactive nature of government bureaucracy. Create an oversight and accountability system with one that is local, collaborative, assistive in nature, and representative of practicing educators. A model? Look at the County Office AB 1200 Financial Oversight Program that is truly assistive and collaborative. The AB 1200 system is my garage sale example and is not for sale and definitely a keeper. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
So following the next speaker will be Don Carter, Michelle McLean, and Chris Unger.
Good morning. My name is Ron Bryant. I'm the superintendent of Taft City School District and a part of the Education Collaborative here in Kern County. I'm very excited to be here and speaking on behalf of children in our educational system, and as well as our great staff that we all employ. I would like to be short, sweet, to the point this morning. The accountability plans and the accountability portion of LCFF is very key and plays a critical role as we roll out this new program. And one recommendation I would like to recommend is that we look at the core school districts and some of the data and the processes that they're going through. Collaboration, working together, a system. The other organization we ought to consider and look at is FICMAT. Look at the model that FICMAT promotes and produces in working with districts across the state. These models of assistance and data are key as we look at progressing and moving forward in this process. We could ultimately lose the concept of local control if we do not address those issues and look at those models. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Don Carter. I'm superintendent of the Kern High School District. I'd like to thank Karen and the state board for holding these input sessions, and Janelle and Wested for coordinating these. Kern High School District is the largest district here in Kern County. We serve 37,000 students in grades 9 through 12. For many years, policymakers and advocates to fix schools have understood that local school officials needed more authority to determine how to best achieve their local agreed upon priorities. And I would like to commend the policymakers for their effort to refine and improve accountability in government. Consistently, we've seen across all spectrum of public services, from education to social services, healthcare, public safety, and economic development, that there is an emerging agreement that the state must play a new role. Rather than directing how services are provided at the state level or attempting to regulate instructional efforts, the state needs to find new ways to support continuous improvement. Now, we at the local LEA level are committed to using the supplemental and concentration grant funds to help disadvantaged and low-achieving students. We also embrace accountability. The first level of accountability should begin with the local school board. These are elected officials and they should be held accountable by the voters of their community. The next level of support and technical assistance needs to come from county offices of education or some other local agency, as Ron just alluded to, and that these are agencies that understand the unique needs of their communities. And only as a last resort should the state intervene in the locally elected governing board's authority and responsibility. After all, we need to remember that the LC of LCFF stands for local control. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Michelle McLean, the superintendent of the Arvin Union School District, and we are headed into our second week of school already. So we love the whole concept of local control, and we've been embracing accountability for a long time. So we welcome the blending of the two and the alignment. Our district is it's close to 100% poverty. We're probably around 96%. We have a 40% unemployment rate. 80% of our students are English learners. Anywhere from 40 to 60% are migrant. So we're welcoming this time and this opportunity in our district, coupled with the local control. And I just want to reiterate what my colleagues have said and supported also. We really would like to see, when it comes to technical support for districts that are struggling in areas, that a program be delivered through a proactive model, and that we receive assistance from peers in the field with similar groups of children that have that experience and expertise in the job alike, similar to what CORE is doing, and we embrace the CORE concept. And Kern County education leaders would also like to see a program or assistance model where needs are identified early and assistance is brought in, very similar to what others have said, that, like the FICMAC concept, which has been very successful with only 9 state takeovers in 31 years when it comes to that fiscal side of the house. I want to thank you all for all the hard work that you're doing, and I thank you for going about the state and getting our input. Thank you.
So following our next speakers, Steve Ward and Jesse Aguilar, and then we'll turn it over to Fresno.
And I'm Chris Unger from Los Osos. I'm a 12-year board member from the San Luis Coastal Unified School District and a director of the California School Boards Association representing the Central Coast. I appreciate the opportunity to provide input, and I want to say that school board members place a high value on the community engagement surrounding student achievement and the alignment of resources. We understand that for governance to take place, we must listen to our stakeholders, much as you are doing here today. That said, there are several critical things to consider as you develop the rules for LCFF implementation. First, we have an obligation to get it right, and that means we need to make sure the process isn't inappropriately rushed. Second, in January, the governor spoke about the importance of subsidiarity. We agree and support the notion of local control and accountability. Third, the statutory language on the use of supplemental and concentration funds requires clarification. Fourth, the language related to proportional expenditures must also be clarified, and any required measures must be reasonable. Fifth, county superintendents have been given increased authority to review school district LCAPs, and we believe that the state board should affirm an interpretation of this that clarifies the county superintendent's role as one of support and provision of technical assistance. Finally, governing boards will need clear, timely messages and communications from the state regarding the LCAP template. For example, what data should we use in relation to reporting the 8 state priorities? How can the template support an accessible and user-friendly format? School boards are well aware of the responsibility that we've been given. We know that the achievement gap is real, and we're dedicated to seeing that all children succeed. We accept this challenge as we begin a new era of school funding. Thank you. Wow.
Good morning. Steve Ward, Associate Superintendent of the Clovis Unified School District and representing the California School Finance Reform Coalition. 39 districts and growing from across the state, representing over 450,000 students. This is the third regional meeting I have attended, and I am impressed but not surprised that the majority of the comments representatives have been focused on ensuring we meet the academic needs of all children who attend our schools. We were excited when the governor proposed a new school finance model based on 3 principles: expanding the local control for school boards, parents, and educators to determine how best to spend their resources to meet the unique needs of their community. California districts are extremely diverse, ranging in size from under 100 to over 600,000, budgets measured in thousands to billions. Some schools having 100% targeted students, some 0%. This diversity demands local control. Flexibility. Maximize the dollars districts will have local control over to address their unique needs. And third, additional dollars for English learners and students with poverty. Title I dollars have supported school sites for years with high concentration of targeted students. But schools with 20%, 30%, even 50% have struggled to provide adequate services due to the low funding of EIA from the state. Districts were excited by these possibilities. Now the state board has the challenge of developing the regulations to implement the LCFF and LCAP under the 3 principles established by the governor. Districts have identified several technical and philosophical or programmatic challenges that require clarification and definition. Some of the technical issues that require immediately needs to be addressed: CSR, multi-year projections, how much money is going to be spent this year on targeted students. Some of the philosophical and programmatic areas are evaluation rubrics and assessments, Common Core, and use of targeted dollars. As the state board develops the regulations, please ensure that implementers, those at the district and school site level from eclectic groups of school districts have the opportunity to work with you to ensure that the unintended consequences The regulations are identified and mitigated to ensure that LCFF and LCAP truly serve the needs of every child in California. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jesse Aguilar. I'm a teacher here in the Kern High School District at East Bakersfield High School. I've been teaching for about 19 years. My message is simple. I'm just here to kind of implore the state board as they start to develop the rules for developing the local control accountability plan, that teachers be included. More times than not, teachers are left out of the process. And really, we're the ones who are closest to the kids, next to the parents. We're the ones who listen to their aspirations, who know their hopes. We're the ones who picture a face when we hear their names. We need to be involved. And more often than not, we're not. There's a lot of variability in the classroom. A lot of variability. And anybody who's not been in a classroom or hasn't been in a classroom for very long sometimes forgets about those variables. So when you get those people together in a room and they're not thinking about the variables in the classroom, those variables aren't thought and put into thought, and plans tend to be very inflexible. So again, my plea is simply, let's include teachers and make sure that they're part of developing these plans. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, now we'll turn it over to the comments from Fresno. I believe we have 5 comments from Fresno, and I think we'll be able in this room to be able to that.
We actually have, parents, we have 6 commenters on this subject area in Fresno, and our first one will be Kathy Ramirez, followed by Michael Rowland, Tammy Townsend, and then we'll have May Kay.
Increase the volume.
Can you hear us at this point now?
Give us a second here to adjust the volume in our room and project it out so we can make sure to capture this for the record. Okay, I think that's good.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Ramirez, and I'm the Director at Large Hispanic for the California School Boards Association and President of the Salinas Union High School District in Salinas, California. We are a grade 7 through 12 district with an enrollment of 13,800 students. Our demographics include 83% Hispanic, 75% socioeconomic disadvantaged, and 28% English learners. I would like you to look at the language in the statute regarding the ability to use supplemental and concentration grant funds in ways that are no more restrictive than Title I funds. This needs clarification so that districts are able to use these monies for district-wide and school-wide programs and initiatives, and that there is alignment with Title I funding. This is very important so that there is consistency with the development and implementation of both district-wide and school-wide programs and initiatives for our students. I would also ask you to clarify the role of the county superintendent in reviewing a district's local control accountability plan. The role should be limited to determining whether the plan adheres to the State Board of Education's template and whether the budget includes expenditures that are sufficient to implement the LCAP. Also, the role should be to support and provide technical assistance to districts. I ask you to ensure regulations provide us school board members with local flexibility to make decisions that are necessary to push our student achievement. I'm looking forward to more parent involvement in our districts through this process. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Michael Nolan. I'm a Senior Labor Relations Representative for the California School Employees Association. So we represent some 210,000 classified employees across the state of California. And as frontline workers, classified school employees have first-hand knowledge of what works and what doesn't. The design of local plans, budgets, accountability measures should include the input and involvement of classified employees. Classified staff will be involved in carrying out virtually all aspects of the programs designed to reach these students. In most districts, classified employees will be the ones who are tracking data, producing reports to measure progress on key metrics. Input from the classified staff can improve the efficiency, quality, and effectiveness of district programs. Training and professional development for classified employees will help to ensure successful implementation. and I heard the introductions, we always identify support from administrators, teachers, community, parents, but we always seem to leave out or leave behind the classified staff. So I was sitting here thinking I could use the acronym NCLB instead of No Child Left Behind, No Classified Left Behind. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tammy Townsend, and I'm from Fresno Unified School District. I'm the Executive Officer of State and Federal Programs. We had a few key points that we wanted to make in terms of the LCAP. The first point was the importance of using multiple measures. That should be a few key measures that everyone uses, but a lot of district level flexibility in developing and evolving those measures as time goes on. So as the needs of our schools or our district changes, we have the flexibility to change the measures with time. Our second point is to be sure that the plan provides flexibility for multi-school districts to use funds for district-wide initiatives as well as individual initiatives for individual schools. We would lobby that we would direct who the money should benefit, but avoid specific guidelines on how to spend the money. We would also like the LCAP template to be applicable to large and small school districts. Many times when there's a statewide template created, it works really well if you have 10 schools or 5 schools, but not so well if you have 100 schools. So we would want some flexibility in the template that it would be manageable and readable and understandable, even for a school district with 100 schools.
20 seconds. We have May is our next speaker, and that'll be followed by Debbie Para and then Fao Zhang.
Good morning, my name is Lai May. I'm a student at Sanger Unified School District, the youth at Stone Soup. I'm here to discuss my belief that cultural studies of our community are crucial for the students of the Fresno Sanger District. A child was 8 years old. I felt unacknowledged and unclaimed by my teachers and classmates who weren't mom. I felt inferior to my peers and believed that I would never excel to their levels. If we offer cultural studies classes to students, I felt that it would prove higher test scores to students benefiting themselves and the schools. My first point involves students themselves, which something that gives impact to everyone, which is bullying. Most students are unaware of how to cope and solve this serious issue, but my argument is the cause. Bullying is an issue that cannot be easily put to rest. It is often began with misunderstandings of one another's interests and actions. Perhaps if there was a more suitable way of understanding one another, the environment of school would be put at ease. This would cause less bullying, and the students would then enjoy attending their classes, giving a better learning environment. Secondly, classes would be offered to specifically high school students. The communication with parents would differentiate greatly. My point aims itself towards minority families who have many relatives who are refugees. The students of those refugees must become comfortable with being a part of the two cultures, American and the relative home culture. Spending so much time at school gives them an opportunity to experience their American culture, with time given to them to experience their own cultures at their homes. If we offer these classes, students would have a better understanding of their parents and their own cultures.
We can ask all of our speakers to come up to the front here and stand just a little bit in the profile. That way we can, our folks in Bakersfield can see us and we can see as well. So our next speaker is actually Jen. Jen Parr. Let's see if I can follow these directions. We need a hat. Thanks a little, give you a look. Okay, perfect.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Debbie Parra, and I'm with Clovis Unified School District. And I'm here with actually probably more questions than comments. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction at And so as one of the people responsible for helping to write the LCAP, I'm hoping that I get some guidance, around what the rubrics are going to look like. For us to be able to write an accountability plan, it would be nice to know what the end product is supposed to be, so we can align what we write to that end product. And then as we have these templates, I'm hoping that we also receive some guidance on the 8 areas we need to address. And we know that we won't have full funding until 2021. And so I'm wondering if we'll be able to choose as a district our areas of priority, so we can address the areas as the funding becomes available to address them, and choose our priorities of the largest needs for our district. So I'm hoping our templates and future meetings provide some of that guidance to us. I would certainly appreciate it.
Our final speaker on this topic is Val Jen. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cal John. I'm a Hong-American student at Nine Science Early College High School and a youth at Film 2. I'm here today to discuss the issue of disaggregated data for race and ethnicity for education outcomes. I feel today many communities and ethnicities are grouped and the data are organized on a scale that's much too broad. By that, I mean each race carries its own differences, such as reason for immigration or time of immigration. Some may have immigrated from war-torn nations as refugees, and some may have immigrated as professionals. Some may be second-generation Americans who have long lived the American way, and some may be first-generation Americans struggling to adjust to this new way of life. Time and reason is just 2 of the many differences out there that define each community. I am a second-generation American myself, while my parents are considered the 1.5 generation, and so I understand the differences and struggles. In other words, each race carries its own differences, so it's unfair to collect data and then compare them as an ethnicity as a whole. It's important to collect thorough data to cover all of the needs of each specific community with the new funding. As our great Governor Jerry Brown once said, equal treatment for unequal children is not justice. In summary, thorough and specific disaggregated data for race and ethnicities for education outcomes is important for the sake of our children and the idealism of justice. As each of our children from various different backgrounds, it's important to collect all the data possible so that we can adjust the schooling environment to meet all of their needs. Thank you.
We'll turn it back over to you, Bakersfield.
Okay, so thank you for those comments. That'll conclude the comments that we have around the topic area of local control accountability plans. We're going to move into our second topic area, which is transparency and community involvement. We have a total of 7 speakers listed in the room here, and I believe there's at least 4 in Fresno. So we'll start with our speakers here. Again, I'll call you up, and if you could join at the far side of the room. George Bazzetti, Judy McKinley, Ken Bergen.
George Mazzetti, when you do work in fraud nationwide, in areas that even educators normally don't understand, for instance, the numbers that the state is showing you on this local control, they couldn't prove those state numbers to save their life. How many of you know how you use the CDE website? How many of you have ever been there? And boy, you get surprised, don't you? I'll tell you what, the state sure was. When they saw my 10-year spreadsheets on 20 school districts, they went crazy up there. I want you to listen to something real close that a friend of mine's grandfather taught. His son was an advisor to 3 presidents, one of the most famous Tuskegee Airmen ever. It was really something to go out to their reunion with my friend's son. I mean, his son. He said, I hear real good, but I see a whole lot better. So people can talk all the stuff they want about this accountability and funding, but the rubber never meets the road with these people. That's the problem. And they're able to get away with it because nobody checks. I have districts giving different information on major subjects for many years to different agencies because they never talk to each other. I'll give you a perfect example. LA Unified for many years has been stating that their special education rate in their superintendent's budget is 4.7%. It's really 11.47 or a 250% variance. When this is brought up with the Chonda Smith monitor, he don't know. He didn't know that LA Unified, that special education was 24% of all revenue for the second largest district in the United States, LA Unified. So, let's see the rubber meet the road.
Good morning. My name is Judy McKinley. I am representing the Learning Disabilities Association of California. Notice that these hearings was not distributed to all stakeholders. We only learned they were taking place on July 26th. These comments are based on the Legislative Analyst Office report. There seems to be only 2 references to special education in the LAO report. The first on page 7 in figure 5, where special education is listed under the retained programs. Does this mean that the current funding levels will remain in place? On page 18, it states that the California Collaborative for Education Excellence will advise and assist school districts in dealing with special student populations, one of which is special education. This is very worrisome to the special education community. Parents do not seem to be at the table as part of the state decision-making process. LDACA is extremely concerned that many school districts delay assessing students suspected of having specific learning disabilities until they are in 2nd or 3rd grade or later. This is contrary to all research. The following statement is taken from an article by Daniel Hallahan and Sandra Cohen from the University of Virginia. Students with learning disabilities are not receiving special education, which is based on the core principles of intensive, relentless, structured, appropriately paced instruction in small groups with frequent monitoring of each student's progress. We believe that, and I have a hard time with this word, diminution of special education for students with learning disabilities has become because of the well-meaning but misinformed, overzealous adoption of inclusive educational practices. And I want to tell you all, the glue that holds the school districts together are the classified employees. And we are totally left out of the process in most cases. And I'm so proud of CSEA for participating in these hearings.
So calling our next speaker will be Rosalina Rivera, then Elizabeth Aucus, and Isabel Rojas.
Good morning. My name is Ken Bergevin. I'm the superintendent of the Richland School District in Shafter, just a little bit northwest of here. Thank you to our state board and WestEd and Dr. Fraser for allowing us this opportunity. In Janelle's opening comment, she was absolutely right. This is a big change. This is second order. And it's not just about local control funding formula. That's huge. But when you think about it for a minute, when you take local control funding formula and you combine that with what we in our district call the big 3, Common Core State Standards, the new ELD standards, and 21st century learning for kids, when you put all of that together, if we do it right, we have the opportunity here to be totally transformative in the whole nature of teaching and learning and getting kids ready to be successful in their world. So we have to get this right. I come from a community that has a very strong, very unique sense of identity. And we're about 89% in terms of the ELLI percentages and that sort of thing. Over the last year, we've run a budget advisory committee that was a representative group, including classified staff, teachers, community members, and we've been talking about LCFF. We've been talking about the potential here, and we're very excited that this is occurring. The other thing about Shafter, though, with their strong identity, is we have a very great partnership with our city of Shafter and also with the Kern High School District.
Suffice to say that the idea of community involvement, we run community forums, community involvement and community responsibility are keys for the city of Shafter. And so there's an expectation that our community will be at the table when we talk about what we're going to do with this great opportunity of LCFF and what we call the big three out there to change learning. And so I would just ask that as we take a look at the ways that we're providing support, as we take a look at how we're creating these plans, that you keep in mind that there is an expectation of local control so that we can more fully meet the unique needs of our communities. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
I think that's as good as it gets.
Short cord.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank WestEd State Board and our county for hosting this event. Our district is Delano Junior High School District, 87.3% free and reduced lunch count.
Rosalina, do you mind identifying yourself?
Oh, my name is Rosalina Rivera, and these are my comments. We have begun the process of communicating with our community on the core principles and priorities of LCFF. Our community is very excited. Our parents are elated to be able to continue to observe how our district will guide our schools in terms of refinement and accountability. We have tried to deliver a positive message in regards to the LCFF to our community at large. At our monthly community meeting, we have discussed the opportunity to refine our educational practice and practices, address our teaching practices, as well as refine our target assessments and to discuss our Common Core standards. In order to ensure success, we recognize the concept of resources and funding as part of the new way to introduce new practices and new curriculum. Our priorities should include, and they do include, to augment services for students that generate that funding, to provide resources necessary to implement the new refined curriculum, to continue to inform our parents, and also to remind them that their opinions matter. After all, what parents want to know is what will change. They want to be informed. What will look different? Parents want to demand access and opportunities for their children. They recognize their children need time. They understand that they need time to learn English. They need access to HEG classes. They need programs that are designed to address proficiency levels, literacy levels, and skill deficiencies. Parents need to know that our teachers are trained, and that's all. One last comment. Our governor gets it. Funding plus resources plus opportunities, intense intervention for our at-risk needy students will empower students to succeed. Thank you. Sorry.
Hi, good morning. My name is Isabel Rojas. I'm representing the California School Employees Association. Classified employees are key stakeholders who want to see our schools do better. This is an opportunity to improve programs and services for students, and classified employees will play a fundamental role in the success or failure of this transition. From the school secretary to the outreach staff, classified employees are a vital link between the school and parents. Classified employees arrange social services, provide translation, and coordinate with law enforcement and other local agencies. As parents and neighbors, classified employees have insight into important family and cultural factors that impact student services. Classified staff can work effectively with other parents, community members, to make sure that the school district is meeting the community needs. Thank you.
And following our next speaker, we'll have Fausto Sanchez, followed by Tim McKinley, and then Valerie Cuevas.
Hi, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Aucus, and I'm an attorney with California Rural Legal Assistance. And we are a legal aid organization that serves low-income clients in Kern County's rural and unincorporated communities. Because the majority of my client community is limited English proficient and lives below the federal poverty line, I'd like to speak with you today about the importance of creating regulations that ensure equal access to participation in the local control accountability plan development process, for limited English proficient and working parents. As the California Education Code makes clear, parent involvement includes efforts by the school district to obtain parent input when making decisions, as well as the responsibility of the district to promote parental participation in programs for English learners and economically disadvantaged students. The percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged students in Kern County who attend college is less than half the state average, 32% as compared to 69%. The college attendance rate for English learners is even lower, 11% in Kern County as compared to 52% statewide. In order to protect the rights of students experiencing the greatest academic challenges, regulations are needed that articulate the specific steps that districts must take to ensure that parents are included in the local control accountability plan development process. Greater transparency and community involvement in developing the accountability plan means providing parents of English learners and low-income students with access and meaningful opportunities to participate in the planning process. This means ensuring that parents receive informational materials in their native language and scheduling meetings in the evenings so that working parents may attend. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Fausto Sanchez, and I am working with California Rural Legal Assistance with Indigenous Program. And my first language was Mixteco. And I came here today to talk about the indigenous community and especially for the farm workers. That I would like you to make a time, to make a space, and take time to talk with farm workers because well, in the area where I live and where I work, most of the people who are living over there are farm workers who does not have time to come and attend meetings like this one because all of them work in the day from, they go to work from 5 to in the morning and come back to 5 or 6. Not everybody can come here to attend this meeting, and maybe many of them don't know how important this meeting is. So I'm here to tell you that if you have time to make a space for them or to find the time or whatever you can do to make a meeting more available for the parents who are working in the field, and also to provide interpretation to them if they don't speak Spanish or they don't speak English. As you know, there are many people who speak other language than Spanish, and that is the reason I'm here. And thank you to everybody to hear me.
Good morning. My name is Tim McKinley. I'm an attorney with the California Rural Legal Assistance. I'm here to ask or to encourage this project to include accountability as to school discipline, including demographic information, socioeconomic information, ethnic information. In Kern County, in the United States, the expulsion rate is about 1.5 per 1,000. In California, it's about double that, about 3.4 per 1,000. In Kern County, it's about 54, in the Kern High School District, it's about 54.5 per 1,000. Unless you're Hispanic, in which event it's 20% higher. Or if you're black, in which event it is 100% higher. I don't think that anybody is intentionally out there being racist, but the impact is racist, pure and simple. If accountability for discipline isn't included in the rubric, I'm concerned for the children of Kern County. Thank you.
Morning, my name is Valerie Cuevas. I'm with the Education Trust West. I want to speak on two important issues, which is community engagement and transparency. One of the things that was important about the passage of LCFF
start my 2 minutes over now?
Give her 2:30.
That was a lesson taught to me by a teacher. Asking, put your needs out there. I'm starting over. Valerie Cuevas with the Education Trust West. We're a statewide education advocacy organization that works for supporting all students, by identifying opportunity and achievement gaps and finding the solutions that will forever close those gaps. Two important areas. We know that the bargain of LCFF was local control, flexibility, but also the promise of knowing that we would take our highest need students and give them the supports and resources that they need to be successful. And one of the ways we're going to make sure we do that is that we truly engage folks, not just local control, not just for folks that are engaged in the process daily, our important educators, our administrators, our teachers, our classified staff, but parents and communities. And the only way to really do that is to ensure that we have transparency of information. Those are critical things that we need regulations from the SBE to identify in what ways are districts required to truly authentically inform and engage community so that we can have the true partnerships that districts talk about, how parents and communities are key roles in helping students succeed. You can't play that role if you don't have access to information that will help you know. And also just a sense that the public has a right to know, how is LCFF money being spent? Will the SBE ask districts and require districts to make that information public? Questions about how will districts receive how much do districts receive in supplemental and concentration grant funding? Where is the allocation, how is this allocated? What are the choices made around this? And how is this advancing the success of targeted students? Transparency is key. Information is key for communities to be the partners that you ask them to be. And so we ask the SBE consider regulations that will require across the state every district making that possible, and then creating the parental engagement measures that will make this, that are attainable and relevant to make this possible. Thank you.
So that concludes the comments here in our Bakersfield location. I'll turn it over to our our Fresno County Office location, where I believe we have 4 speakers signed up for comments.
We do, and I'm just going to do a brief sound check. Is it still echoey there in Kern County?
A little echoey there, but better.
Is it better this way, or better one, better two? All right, I'm going to model. We can have our speakers stand. I know it's kind of awkward, but approximately right here, as you can, like, one eye, keep an eye on us as Baker and Fresno, and then Baker still can see you as well. That will work out. So we have 4 speakers, and our first one will be Kimberly Morales, followed by Kathy Hall. We have April, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get your name like Elysian, and then Gina Rodriguez. So you can join me right up here. I'll trade you.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Morales, and I'm a recent graduate of LaSalle High School in Salinas, California. I'm here today to speak to you about the potential local control accountability plans have to create huge difference with improved outcomes for students like me who have been historically underserved through public education. I support decision-making at the level closest to people who are being served, like myself and my community. Flexibility within local control, along with community input from parents, students, and involved citizens like me, can help school districts serve the needs of all students with goals and priorities that are aligned to budget of the district. I urge you to provide local school districts the flexibility they need to create successful goals for all students they serve. As a community member and recent graduate of a high school, I look forward to giving my local school district input in ways that can enhance students' learning opportunities towards work and or college goals. Thank you.
We're pretty close to dead on. A little bit.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Hall, and I represent the California State PTA and speak on behalf of 9 million California children and their families. As we look to implement the local control funding formula, California State PTA wants to put parent involvement in a place that is truly meaningful and where parent advocacy for all students is applied. To that end, we ask that parent and community involvement begin now, and that we want to know how parents and community members will be selected to serve on the various advisory committees that put input into the LCFF formula implementation in school districts and schools. While parents need to understand current budgets of districts, they need to have meaningful input and participation in future decisions. We ask, will there be training for parents and community members to understand the budgeting process prior to decisions being made? Parents need to have accessible information, and the information must be in languages that are spoken in the home and in a format that is understandable. Information must be available in multiple formats. How will parents be involved at the school site committees if they are not actually members of the committees? And what languages will materials be in, and how will they be distributed? And lastly, we want timing of public hearings to be scheduled when parents are available to attend, and that they be made available in multiple formats and in languages parents can understand. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is April Gazian. I'm with the Youth Leadership Institute. I would like to stress the importance of including student voice in the accountability plans and other vital pieces of this process. Students are experts in their schools and have valuable input to contribute. After all, students will be most impacted by changes brought about by LCFF and should be included in the decisions that directly affect them. We must actively create opportunities for meaningful student participation by considering time of day of input sessions, training opportunities, facilitation and format of sessions, transportation access, and location. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gina. I'm with the Youth Leadership Institute, Gina Rodriguez, sorry. And I'm here to speak to transparency and community involvement and the need to engage the people who are most impacted by the issues that we are talking about, including our parents and our students. We know that a quarter of our students are English learners. We know that English may not be the first language spoken in many of our homes. Yet a barrier to participation in our input sessions and school activities continues to be lack of translation in both verbal communication as well as printed and presented materials. It is both a lost opportunity and an injustice to have our parents wake up early, find childcare, come to these meetings, fully ready to participate and being denied that access because there was no translation provided. So, moving forward, I would want to ensure that our community voices are valued and validated by having access to translation and translated materials.
Okay, there's still one last speaker on this topic, and it's Roy
Mendiola.
Thank you.
My name is Roy Mendiola. I'm the Assistant Superintendent in Fireball, South Unified School District. Basically echoing all the comments that we've heard right now about the importance of parent and community engagement in the Central Valley with folks where there's a lot of limited English or non-English speaking parents. Really the challenge I have, and I tie this with the previous session, is similar to what we expect our teachers to do. You have an old accountability system and a new accountability requirement. We've got changes that are underway right now. And I guess what I'm asking for is, at what point might the FPM-like process become a tool to help us transition towards implementation of local funding, Common Core, LCAP? I say that because we've got CE reviewers scheduled to come out in March for on-site reviews, online reviews, and they basically have a checklist of what they're looking for. So either we meet those requirements or we don't. They They have technical assistance prior to the visit and after the visit. But that's actually a pretty good model for training, in my opinion, to assist, because basically they are interviewing parents and asking them questions about their input, how when money get handled, how was the expenditure being made, how did your input, was that incorporated in the school site council requirements? They're basically interviewing parents with those questions, and hopefully the sites are all doing a good job of continuing to inform parents during the parent advisory meetings to respond to the interviewers in a way where the interviewer says, okay, I can understand there's some open communication between parents and the school sites. With the changes that are taking place right now, I don't know why we would not look at the FPM-like process as a training tool, so that it isn't one of those compliance requirements where there's findings that we have to resolve, that we use that during this transitional time towards the implementation of Common Core, LCFF, and LCAP. Thank you.
Janelle, that concludes our comments here on this topic, and President, we will turn to President Bakersfield.
Okay, we'll move to our last topic area for comment, which is LCFF budget and funding use. We have, I think, 7 or 8 speakers here in the room, and I believe 7 in Fresno. So George Bazzetti, Martin Mejia, Randy DeJong, and Blanca Cavazos.
I think we just watched the level of incompetency of this whole procedure. They can't even get a video to run today or yesterday. They couldn't operate the meeting at LACOE properly. Lots of people wanted to speak. Nope, we got to cut off at noon. Nobody can put their numbers together. Believe me, I got the proof of that, because I'm a king of that, and anybody knows me. And I mean across the U.S. Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, D.C. I'll tell you what's going on. And I'll tell you what's going on in this state. And it's a tragedy. And there's a compounded tragedy. I'm not against them doing something new. But don't run a flim-flam on us. And don't push it through so you can push through whatever you want for Gates, Broad, Walton, and all the other people who want to steal money, because that's what this is all about, okay? Just at school construction, I could show you $15 billion disappeared in LA Unified. Because LA Unified had 117,000 students not show up to school every day at $11,600 per student. Gee, they only lost $1.35 billion in revenue. In 10 years, they went from 14,500 to 117,000 students not coming to school every day, from 2 to 17%. Just track Pasadena. The same period of time, they went from 0.7 to 11% not coming to school every day. Money. Programs take money. And without money, you got nothing. All this is another more twisted, more complicated, categorical game, if you break it down. And if you have experience in other fields other than education. I suggest that all of you, only 2 people in this room, knew the CD website. I suggest you learn how to use it. Only 2 hands went up.
Thank you, and good morning. English press microphone's a little bit short here.
You can take another
I think I can do it here. Once again, good morning. My name is Martin Mejia. I'm with the California School Employees Association. And as I was saying, I think we're here for one reason. One reason alone. There's a big change coming. And I think we should embrace that change. But in embracing this challenge, we have to look at the stakeholders. And we heard about classified employees, teachers, but I'd like to once again focus on our the classified employees that we represent throughout the state. 210,000 plus classified employees who provide services. They are stakeholders. They are actually the backbone of our school services, and they provide services that are very essential in creating a life that creates a conducive learning. In the past, school districts have cut food service, transportation programs, and paraprofessionals have been reduced. These are very important programs and personnel that serves the students directly. Paraeducators, again, are the ones who reach out to families in their homes and work the closest with the children who need the most attention. Food service workers, they fill the hungry tummies so students can focus in the classroom. Campus security personnel are the watchful eyes of our school sites. And nowadays, we know that we need them the most. Students who need dental, tutoring, and a host of other supplemental services turn to classified employees. And schools look nice and put together. It's because it's a welcoming, conductive learning environment. And for many of those reasons, we suggest that keep classified employees in the loop, keep them a part of the integrity process to make this new program work. Thank you.
My name's Randy DeYoung. I'm a teacher librarian at South High School and Kern High School District. I'm also involved in the California School Library Association. I really hope with the funding usage from this bill that we can see things to keep going across the boundaries, getting each student, because the libraries are part of that cement that binds education and improvement and achievement with our students. Poverty is one of the greatest impactors that we have, and the libraries are the way that students have the ability to have access to materials. Plus, the research shows that schools that have a up-to-date current library collection with a skilled, qualified librarian have greater impact and achievement levels in all aspects. Basically because the students are able to have higher literacy rates and they can read better and they can therefore understand and comprehend what they need to know. I'm hoping some of this funding will be used for libraries because I really strongly appreciate that the Kern High School District has kept the librarians in the schools of the 18 comprehensive high schools, where many schools across the state have cut that position, seeing it as maybe perhaps frivolous or expendable. But as you watch this, the difference in achievement truly rises when you have a library with somebody qualified to help reach those students from the special ed all the way up through the gate. I'm watching that in my kids. I'm also seeing that a tool without someone qualified to use it is useless. And this will get us the biggest bang for our buck. Thank you.
And after our next speaker, Robert Hart, Don Carter, and Drew Sorensen, and that'll be the end of those here in the room.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Blanca Cavazos, and I am superintendent at Taft Union High School District in West Kern. And we are a school, we're a small school district. We have under 1,000 students, of which 55% are on free and reduced lunch, and about 10% are English learners, although 40% of our population speak a language other than English in the home. I'm here this morning to recommend to the board and West Ed that the regulations that govern the expenditure of funds apportioned on the basis of both supplemental and concentration grants reflect the spirit and the intent of the local control funding formula. Specifically, the LCFF therefore reducing state bureaucracy and at the same time ensuring that student needs drive the allocation of resources. Local school boards and local stakeholders should be the ones that are given the flexibility and the authority to support their communities' priorities for student learning. Secondly, we recommend that a district, a county office of education, or charter schools be authorized to use supplemental funds for any school-wide initiative in alignment with Title I regulations for a school-wide program, and also district-wide initiatives provided by two LCFF priorities. Number one, that funds are used to increase or improve services to students, and number two, that enhanced services are designed for the primary benefit of the targeted students, and that we do this for systematic change. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Robert Hart. I'm the fiscal consultant for Fruitdale School District. And the way that LCFF has been adopted, and as we understand it, is devastating to our unrestricted funds. If the supplemental and concentration grant funds are restricted as they appear to be, we stand to lose $1.4 million, or 7.22%, had we been funded through the revenue limit formula. And we are at $400,000 less in unrestricted funding than in 2012-13, the year that just ended. Our restricted funding has, with the supplemental and concentration grants, has increased by 800% at the same time. Is completely disproportionate, and like I said, it will be devastating to our district on the unrestricted side. We stand to lose our reserve is projected to go down by a full 8% this year. So I would strongly suggest that the formulas created for the proportionality between the base grant and the supplemental grants be revisited. Thank you.
Yeah.
Again, my name is Don Carter, Superintendent of the Kern High School District, but also today I'm wearing the hat of the Chair of the High School Districts Association. This is an association that represents 83 districts in the state of California that serve 9th through 12th graders solely as districts. As was mentioned earlier, this is a major change, and with major changes come maybe some imperfections in implementation that take time to resolve. And I'd like to speak to two of those as they pertain to the FF part of LCFF, which is the funding formula. First of all, while the supplemental and concentration grant funds will allow LEAs to fund those programs and services to meet the very unique needs of our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, our English learners, and our foster youth, it simply does not make sense to exclude those low-achieving students who are fluent in English or come from families that don't qualify for free and reduced lunch program. The local educational agencies need the flexibility to use the supplemental grant funds for school-wide efforts and to use the concentration grant funds for district-wide programs and services so that we can ensure that we meet the needs of all low-achieving students. Secondly, while we applaud the outcome of the LCFF, the High School Districts Association is concerned that the funding formula will not capture some of the disadvantaged students that it was intended to serve. For a variety of reasons, high school students do not report their eligibility to participate in the free and reduced price meal program. And as a result, this underreports the number of students who would be eligible for the resources provided under LCFF program. And yet it is the intent of the local control funding formula, supplemental and concentration grant factors to serve these disadvantaged students as well. The data shows that there's a statewide average of 12 percentage points difference between the students in the high school districts and the elementary districts that those students come from, serving the same students in the same families. This results in a 13 percentage point decrease in the gain toward the target in 2021. So we would ask that we take a look at this issue of underreporting for high school students on free and reduced price meals as a proxy for poverty. Thank you.
Wow. Good one. Never thought of that. That was very smart, sir.
This is our last speaker here in Bakersfield, and then we'll turn it over to Fresno.
Good morning, I'm Drew Sorensen. I'm the superintendent at Wood Lake Unified, which is in East Tulare County with an ADA of 2,300. Not an awful lot of different comments from many others, just adding to it. We certainly hope that our County Office of Education will have a template that shows a very clear distinction between supplemental and concentration grant money compared to general fund. If that's what the money is supposed to be, that's who the money is supposed to be spent on, we don't want those commingled. The second part too, and it speaks directly to what Don just said, we had a back to school night with Wood Lake Valley Middle School last night. If you have to fill out that free and reduced form, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. I certainly hope that whoever it is that designs that form will look back on that and try to determine that we're asking our free and reduced parents and we're asking our English learner parents to fill those forms out, and I doubt that many of us would be able to fill those forms out. So I wonder truly if that money that is supposed to go to those students is going to go there, not to even mention the high school students where, we've been provision 2 since 1998. Our parents have not had to fill those forms out since then. So I hope that we'll be able to look at that, be able to spend our money, because we are all in with raising the individual student achievement for our students. So thank you.
So with that, we'll turn it over to Fresno for their comments. I believe they have 8 speakers that will be taking comments.
Yes, we do. Can you hear us? Yes, you can. We'll be a little later. Yes, we do have 8 speakers. Our first speaker will be Ernesto Badra. Then we'll have Jackie Canfield, Michael Johnston, and then we will have, maybe my page here, we'll have Goldo Sosa.
Hello, good morning. My name is my name is Ernesto Badra. I'm with Californians for Justice. We're a statewide grassroots organization that works with low and communities of color. And pretty much what I came up to talk about, obviously, is to make sure that the funds are being spent how they should be, right? For those 3 categories. It's really, really important. I don't know how much it can be emphasized even more, right? So with that, there's a lot of talk, especially from folks from the district, where there's a lot of talk around flexibility and how that's a good thing, things like that, which definitely is, but with flexibility, there also needs to come accountability. There needs to be accountability, whether it comes from the state or from the community itself, but real meaningful accountability. Because unfortunately, at least I can only speak for President Urbay, doesn't really have a good track record of a lot of accountability. Also, specifically as far as district-wide use of the LCFF funds, right? Especially from the state, there needs to be a lot of oversight as far as clear guidelines on what is permissible as far as district-wide use and what is not permissible. Because I feel like if you just leave it up to here in the community, they're gonna be like, yeah, we involve some folks, right? We got the community and stuff. But usually those folks that usually tend to be reached out to and involved are usually the same folks that tend to be reached out to and involved, right? And there needs to be more of an effort to reach out to other communities, especially marginalized sectors here in Fresno. There needs to be an analysis and assessment of current expenditures, and that needs to be shared. It needs to be shared with the public as well. And also how the information in general, how these funds are being calculated, how these budgets are being formed, it can be designated and shared in a comprehensive way with the public and the community. So yeah, that's all I got. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Jackie Canfield. I'm the Executive Director of President Nevada. And as stated in today's presentation, and as stated in the governor's budget summary, the local control funding formula is creating a more just allocation of resources and providing expanded flexibility to school districts. The just allocation will ensure students most in need will have the help and have an equal opportunity for quality education. It is important that we keep focused on these goals as procedures and regulations are put in place. Local boards must have the authority and the ability to use this expanded flexibility so they can respond to their community and their student needs. It is important that we do not implement regulations that harm the very students that these funds were intended to assist. 2 areas of concerns, including the implementation of K-3 CSR targets and the recent CalPAD update, that included procedures for provisional two schools must follow to identify free and reduced students are of concern that I want to speak about today. To provide more information on the CSR targets, current legislation states that if one classroom in a school district does not make the CSR targets, all CSR funds received by the district must be returned to the state. We have not had penalties this severe since the implementation of CSR 1995-96. If current rules stay in place, one classroom does not make the CSR target average, the district will lose for a unified $16 million, which will ultimately hurt the students. The other concern that I would like to pass along today is regarding the recent CalPADS update. The update stated that all Provision 2 schools will need to make applications each year for all the families in order for supplemental and concentration funds to be received. This state process will place a greater reporting requirement from the state than the federal government. This could mean that a district recognized by the federal government to be 90% free and reduced, for example, would only receive 70% of funding. These are just two examples to keep in mind as we move through the implementation of LCFF. Every effort should be made to minimize any additional procedures and ensure students that they are supposed to benefit get these funds and indeed receive that right.
We have Michael Johnson and then now I can read Martha. Use the long arm here. It's Rob. Is it Christopher? I still don't know if I'm not doing a great job. And then we have Daryl Camp, followed by Peter Long.
Good morning. I'm Michael Johnson, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for Columbus Unified School District. I believe that as far as we look at the formula, we need to be cautious of the amount that's being allocated to school districts and what that has been interpreted as different amounts as we've seen through the different calculations. I also believe that we need to be cautious and get numbers out to school districts to help them support their multi-year projections and where they're heading for multi-year projections, how that calculation is going to affect what direction they're going in. Time is of the essence. We don't have a lot of time to work on this. We've got to address this quickly and promptly to help schools districts prepare for their first interim reports and what's happening within their financials. Also, it's important to note that we're going into LCFF after years and years of reductions, and having to go into LCFF after years and years of reductions is very difficult. And we're looking, as many of it as have addressed, additional restrictions on the funds we've had. Highest percentage of restrictions and funds we've ever had as you look at this LCF formula and how it's related to school districts. And I think it's important, as Jackie mentioned, the class size reduction and the penalties that are being addressed in that class size reduction formula. And also with the class size reduction formula we'll have now, is many districts that are being funded at different levels of how many students per teacher. And I think we need to be cautious of that and be cautious of what level we're funding those at and consider a true funding formula expectation of where we expect school districts to get to. It'll take many years. It's a 7-year formula fully funded, and we need to be cautious as we move forward to that. I'd like to thank the administration for taking on this challenge and addressing local control funding and bringing on this change. Change is never easy. It's very difficult, but I think we work together to come to reasonable solutions. Thank you.
All right, good morning. My name is Rob Christopherson. I'm an administrator in Columbus Unified School District. I'm grateful for the opportunity to stand before you today and express appreciation for the LCFF decisions that have been made so far. We look forward to further clarification for implementation expectations and hope that we can move forward with a limited excessive bureaucracy and oversight. I stand before you wearing 2 hats today. First of all, as an educator, and second of all, I'm a parent of 10 children, 8 of which are still in the public school system. My concern with the proposed funding formula are multifaceted, but of course I only have my 2 minutes. And I wish to address one point specifically, that of the invisible students. These are students who have EL or LI designations but live within boundaries of school district that do not meet 55% threshold. I would posit that these students need to warrant as much focus and resources as any other EL or LI student in the state of California. The formula for concentration funding indeed values these students living within the boundaries of these districts that do not meet the 55%. We have now created a new demographic to battle: geography. For example, students living in my own home have no concentration opportunities, but moving a few blocks west or south or east, they would be living in a district that would fund them at this concentrated level because their home lies in this different district. Same child, same needs, different funding level. If this is truly, quote, our civil rights issue of our times, as the governor has claimed, we need to focus resources and decisions on all students with any academic disadvantage, irregardless of their place of residence. As an educator and parent, I wish to have clarification on regulations surrounding flexibility of the use of funds. I encourage adherence to the spirit of LCFF and allow schools local control to make decisions to effect change to support the academic needs of both the visible and invisible disadvantaged child. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Darrell Campbell, and I'm the superintendent of the Burbank Unified School District in Stanislaus County. We serve about 2,800 students, of which 45% are ELs, English learners, or multilingual, we prefer to say. 78% are free and reduced lunch. We also have been adjusting our system to deal with the declining enrollment and deficit spending. Due to those factors, we work very hard with our professional associations, our teachers and classified staff to reduce our school year and reduce our staffing significantly as we went into this school year. While I'm proud of those accomplishments, I'm concerned because of the CSR implications. What I'm asking of legislature and governor are to consider postponing the CSR penalties associated with not meeting the 24-to-1 threshold, or agreeing with your professional associations to reduce the class size ratio, or to increase the class size ratio. The reason is, when we have that, it's a timing issue. We're forced to come to the table to engage in negotiations, when in reality, we're trying to adjust to a system in which we don't have all the parameters. A significant portion of our dollars will come as a result of our concentration in supplemental dollars, but what's more important, do we allocate those dollars to restoration of staff? We've decimated our classified staff, our administrative staff, and we need to gear up in order to serve our students better. But does that mean, do we increase our school day back to 180? We have a lot of questions, so I ask for a postponement of at least 1 to 2 years as it pertains to this class size reduction penalties and the LCAP. Once again, we need people to develop the LCAP, to collaborate with parents and students and our stakeholders if we're going to make that happen. So once again, thank you again, and I do support LCFF.
Thank you. We have Peter, and then we'll follow up with our final two speakers. After Peter, we have Anthony Young and Omar Sakama.
Hi, my name is Peter Young, and I have been a student at President Unified for 12 years. And I'm also a youth at SumSU, and I feel that there should be an ethnic study class or program for students. And this program can build up self-esteem and parent support, which can improve the student's academic success. And in my life as a student, I was learning, well, education wasn't easy for me, but it became easy when I learned about my culture, and I was learning to play long instruments, but it wasn't very fun at all because they didn't make any rhythm or any beats, so I decided to quit. But before I was about to quit, my dad told me this: this is not part of your career, but it is a part of who you are. And after that, I felt very empowered. And I felt so empowered that I want others to feel this empowerment too. And my dad's involvement helped me appreciate learning more. And if there would be an ethnic study class for students to learn about culture and history, then students will be able to relate to it and help get their parents involved. Not only will English learners and students of low-income families be learning, but their academic success will improve. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Yang. I'm a Fresno State graduate student. I've also attended K through 12 here in Fresno Unified. I'm also a consumer of Stone Soup, and I believe part of the funding should be used towards balancing the staff ratio of teachers, school administration, counselors, and staff to better reflect the various ethnicities of the student populations. This will help with the effectiveness of school programs, curriculums, one of these being the EL curriculum that we've taught today. Having teachers who can understand and can identify with students will close the gap to language barriers. If staff ratios are addressed, this can also solve issues of parent involvement. So throughout my academic life, my parents weren't very comfortable interacting and discussing various topics because they didn't speak the language, and English that is, and did not understand the problems. Very often I ended up being the translator for them during the few moments they did come to my school. And at that time, you're looking at a third grader, fourth grader translating all these issues to your parents, you know? So, but if part of the LCFF funding is used towards balancing the staff ratio to reflect the student population, the schools can better build relationships with the families. And in turn, students and parents will more likely be involved in stakeholder issues. Thanks.
Good morning, my name is Omar Sarah, and I attend Edison High School currently. It's difficult when you speak. The language barrier between people at Edison, like I know one of my teachers, she has students that only speak Spanish, and when she has to grade their papers or communicate with them, it's difficult. So I think the message doesn't get sent across, and it's not her fault. It's just that there's nobody that can translate. There's no classes that help with that. So I think some of the money should be put towards that, as well as technology. We're in this modern era, we kind of have to know how to use computers and how to mess with all that stuff, as well as communication skills. I think teachers should focus more on basically communication skills. Like, I can know everything about the world. A lot of people don't, but I can know a lot of facts. And that's not going to get me very far in life. I can just buy a computer, right? Why would I hire you instead of buying a computer? So I think we need to focus on knowing what to do with that knowledge, knowing how to excel with that knowledge. So teachers should teach not only the knowledge, but go further into it and say, what do we do with this knowledge? So with that, they're going to need materials such as hands-on things, because a lot of us don't learn by just hearing and by seeing things. We need to actually do things. And I'm one of those things myself. And if I'm not doing something, I'm not very engaged, and I just don't learn very well. So I think we need to allocate some of that money to material things.
So now that concludes our speakers here in Fresno. I'll turn it back over to you for closing comments.
Okay, I think that concludes the comments. I appreciate both sides for, I think, working through the video connection. And where I want to close is somewhat where I began with the comments, which is this is the beginning of what we see as a dialogue. And in today's day and age where this is a statewide issue, we live in a large state, it's physically possible to include everyone in the stadium, hard to hear the results of that. And so we've tried to create multiple forums, multiple ways where people can offer their ideas, their thoughts, and construct those together so that we can continue having comments and discussion. So we are taking everything from today's session, from yesterday's session, that was in Sacramento, and virtually we're joined also through Shasta County, and prior to that, last week's session in Los Angeles and San Diego, and putting together a comprehensive summary. It will be posted. You can see here the address for the Department of Education's website. In addition, we are accepting your continued comments through the LCFF@wested.org email address, and you're welcome to continue to send thoughts there. This is also helping us aggregate a listserv that we can continue to provide communication about LCFF and the state board's process and progress in developing regulations and templates. So encourage you to provide information via that, and also the comment cards that are available to you. Please feel free to fill those out and or leave written comments with us. I know that most of you here are familiar with the Department of Education's website, and I want to encourage you to use that as a portal for information about LCFF. You will see that it looks different than it did this week from what it looked like last week in terms of what's available, and I expect that that will continue to be the case as we work towards putting together the regulations and templates, and I hope that you will find that what you see really reflects the thoughts and ideas that each of you have put into sharing today in the various forms that we've made available. So with that, I'd like to thank you for taking time, being part of this process, with the understanding that this is ongoing, and we look forward to your continued contributions and thoughts as we move along.
Question, when is the comment period shutting off?
There is no end to the comment period, but we do need to put a deadline on comments that will be presented in the summary from the regional input sessions, and that is, we're doing to the end of the day, but we are continuing to accept comments and cataloging those in the database. But at some point we have to end comments for the regional input or we can't summarize.
I understand.
Yes.
What is being done to, we have not found one school site committee, one district advisory committee, one community advisory committee for special ed that was given any notice of these hearings or meetings.
So I can't particularly comment.
School districts are not providing information to their school site committees or their district advisory committees. So something needs to be done that those people are informed. Those are the people that should be here and making comments.
So we'll accept that comment and look towards ways to improve. So it looks as though we are losing people. So again, thank you for being here today and appreciate the input that you provided.